Welcome to Weddings in the Mountains with Pastor Jody Secor as your host. This is your go-to podcast for all things romantic and enchanting in the Great Smoky Mountains. Whether you're dreaming of a cozy, intimate elopement or a grand, breathtaking ceremony with a mountain view, we are here to guide you through the best venues, vendors, and secrets of wedding planning in East Tennessee. Grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's explore the magic that awaits amidst the misty peaks. Remember, the Great Smoky Mountains are not just a backdrop, they're a part of your love story. Thank you for tuning in to Weddings in the Mountains. We hope you're feeling inspired and excited for your journey to saying I do in the heart of the mountains. Now here is the next exciting episode.
Alrighty. Well, hello and welcome to Weddings in the Mountains podcast. Yes, I am Pastor Jody, known as the mountain preacher in this area, and I am excited today to bring you this episode as we have an exciting guest that I have here on today's episode. But before we get started, before I introduce them, let's take care of a little bit of business, of course, and we need to pay the bills. So let me mention that this episode is brought to you by the Smoky Mountain Wedding Directory. If you're dreaming of getting married here in the Smoky Mountains, well, let me make it easier for you. Smoky Mountain Wedding Directory connects you with trusted local venues and vendors who know how to make mountain weddings simple, beautiful, and stress-free. So start planning the right way at SmokyMountainWeddingDirectory.com. All right, now with that out of the way, I have with me today a great friend of mine, someone that I've known for quite some time. I actually have worked with several times over the years doing weddings in this area. He is a DJ in this area, which is what we're going to be focusing on today. But he actually wears more than that, just that hat. Ron is also another officiant in the area. He also does trivia and karaoke. So he is a multi-talented individual, and he is able to accomplish quite a few things. He can provide for weddings in some really cool ways. So if you will, let's make welcome Ron Crivellone with Smoky Mountain Sounds. Ron, how we doing today?
Good, Jody. How about yourself?
Hey, I can't complain. We've made it through this crazy weather, and we're ready to get back on track, get some things accomplished. So I'm excited about the future, the way things are headed.
Good. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a system that came through, and I think we're starting to thaw out where people can start getting out and getting back to
getting married.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, let's get started today, Ron, by getting to know you a little bit.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get started doing DJing in the Smoky Mountains? How long have you been working in this area?
I think I've been here a little over 17 years now.
Wow.
And so interestingly enough, when I first moved here, before I moved here, I sold everything and I was retired. Wasn't going to do the business anymore. So I had come out here with the prospects of, had been out here on vacation, and figured I would see what it would be like to live here. And so I initially just started working regular work.
So you were a DJ in the area back where you came from?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you've been doing DJ work long before even coming here. You've been at this quite some time. Okay, cool.
Yes, had a very successful business, and when I knew I was coming out here, I pretty much closed everything up and, just make sure I had all the T's crossed and I's dotted. First couple years I lived here, I had to go back and forth just because I still had some commitments to take care of, and I did that. But it wasn't really until like a year or so that I was here that I, interest in finding out what the area was like for weddings, networking, and just kind of navigating what that looked like. And so initially I was doing more networking in Knoxville than I was this area. And I was understanding that chapels were a huge part of weddings here at that time, because you figure this was 2009, 2010. Okay. And so you still had quite a few chapels in the area, and you had maybe a couple places, hotels, had some banquet rooms, meeting rooms, party rooms. You had maybe a couple venues at that time. So it was really understanding this area and that it was known as the wedding capital of the South and what that looked like. And so when I
Right.
started networking, just to getting to know the different businesses, um, finding out how different it was here at that time, because where I come from, 7-8 hour receptions were the standard. And when I first got
Wow.
here and started networking, it was like 2 or 3 hour receptions were the standard at that time. So it was understanding the differences. Um, some of your chapels did the ceremonies, and some had their own space to do the receptions. Others had where they just did the ceremony, worked out a place that did the reception, whether it be a smaller cabin or a smaller venue. And
I
so,
follow you.
yeah, so that was definitely a learning experience for me to, how do you take what you're used to doing in 7 hours and fit it in three.
Oh,
So I had to retrain myself. Um, and it was just understanding, that was also an experience for me because being where I come from, I was used to having a local market, which is where you got your business from. So it was either the Chicago area or the suburbs. Here, we're a destination. So initially, when I would start talking with people, you're finding out they're coming from Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, California,
oh, yeah, all the directions,
all over,
even from
including overseas.
overseas.
Yes, including overseas. So the first few times my phone was ringing, and I'm like, well, that's a number from Texas. I don't know anyone from Texas. Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
destination. So that was also a big difference too in understanding, what brought them to this area, why they chose the area, and then incorporating some of the traditions of, you know, where they're from to how they want it to play out here.
Well, which kind of brings me to the next question as to, talking about the receptions and so forth, how does
hmm
the mountain setting, kind of affect that overall vibe of the reception?
I think what it does is it allows couples to have a different wedding than what they would do at home. I mean, and here's an example of, depending on what part of California, depending on what part of Chicago someone might live, or Illinois per se, they can come here and they can dress in boots or dress in vests, and the girls can wear the dresses and the boots and have it more authentic because maybe they look for a place that's more rustic feel, that has the
Hmm.
mountain backdrop that they can't get there. And then, of course, they'll have catering where it's just more of the barbecue and that type of feel. So, I mean, here offers it to be a little more authentic and have that rusticness about it to where they can still have that vibe, but then still have the dance format to be what they want it to be with their family and friends. And
What
not
about
only
the
that,
music? Do you think that people getting married here in the Smokies want something different musically? Do
not
you see that?
always, no. Maybe for dinner or cocktail, maybe sometimes a ceremony, yes. The dance music, not so much. I mean, unless they were truly brought up in that, then yes. But otherwise, it's the dance music is usually such a sharp contrast to what you're playing for dinner cocktail.
So you haven't
So
had to learn Appalachian bluegrass to be
no,
successful then.
no. You might get the wedding here and there that'll definitely be part of their cocktail dinner vibe. But then the dance music might want a touch of country, but then it's all strictly, you know, for this generation, 90s or 2000 throwbacks.
It depends on the generation, I'm
It
sure, as
depends
to
on the generation, how they were
yeah.
raised, and of course, the guests. Like, you could have a good variety. But no, I very rarely have I gotten it to where it's strictly an all country wedding.
I got you. I got
Yeah.
you. So thinking about the guest experience, the atmosphere, more or less, that we're talking about here.
hmm
What kind of the small DJ related details will make a big difference for guests in this area?
Um, as far as DJ related, it's really just you have to work harder on our end to understand like where the guests are coming from and what they're looking to experience here. Um, and a lot of that is done by how do we understand it goes back to the vibe they want created. Um, it goes back to how do they plan to dress. It goes back to who they choose for their catering options. If we get a group that we find out that most of the guests are coming here for the first time, then ahead of time I'll make suggestions to the bride of saying, here are some things you want to think about, navigate for accommodations, shuttle service, different things of that nature. What are things you want me to incorporate that you have grown up with that you want to be part of this, even though you're having it at a destination? What are some things that you want that make your guests feel at home, even though you're not at your home?
At home. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think asking those questions ahead of time, getting that information is important in helping create that vibe for them. Beyond that, I don't know from a DJ standpoint, really, what we can do differently. It's more of just understanding what it is and why they chose this area.
And then where they're coming from. Exactly. That makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
Now, when it
Yeah.
comes to atmosphere, do you think there's any particular volume or sound considerations that couples should think about when they're putting this together?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of it has to, where's your space? Where are you having it at? Are you having it at a smaller cabin? Is it surrounded by cabins? Or are you
Indoors,
having it?
outdoors?
Yeah, you're having it at a venue to where the venue's only surrounded by cabins, but yet the venue owns those accommodations. So a lot of that definitely plays in the making for it. I mean, one of the things we have here, especially in the Pigeon Forge area and Gatlinburg areas, we have the sound ordinance. So a lot of
Oh,
times, some of your weddings, some of your venues, you're wrapping things up about 10 o'clock, maybe 10:30ish. Just
that's an
because of
interesting
that.
consideration. Yeah, yeah.
It is. And that's, a lot of times people have a cabin and don't understand that and say, well, what time can we get away with having a DJ? And usually if I'm in a cabin, I'll say, maybe not more than 10:30, maybe 11 o'clock the latest. I mean, after
How long
that,
does
if
it
you
take
want
the
to,
police to get here?
yeah, exactly. If you want to do a Bluetooth after that, that's fine, but that's not amplified music per se like a DJ would do. So it really depends on the venue they choose and any thing that the venue has in place that we have to be worried about. Um, because there has been those times where the police have been called.
Oh,
Yes.
you have a story to share there?
A couple years ago, I did a wedding at a venue called, well, I'm not going to say the venue, but I knew I
I
was
don't blame you.
pushing, huh?
I
I
don't
knew
blame
I
you. Go
was,
ahead.
yeah, I knew I was pushing the limits because it was a pavilion that was located in the back of a cabin, like a cabin community. And they rent out this cabin, but some of the other cabins are actual residences. So
Oh, okay.
they have an agreement with this place that it has to be done at 10. And we had a group come in that were all law enforcement officers.
Oh, okay. Picking up
They
the
did
vibe
not
already.
they did not care that particular day. So I knew I was pushing it, and finally we get to a point where it's going on 10:30. I said I'm wrapping it up. We are pushing the boundaries at this point. I'm just waiting for either an owner or someone to come up and roll up and say you're done.
Yeah.
The father of the bride was adamant and saying, I don't care, I've got a badge. I'm like, that badge doesn't mean anything around here, buddy. I'm just saying. Just saying.
Yeah, just saying.
No sooner than I get to my last song where he's trying to extend me, and who do I see coming up the grass? Your
Gotcha.
local law enforcement. And he comes to me and I said, this is my last song. Father of bride comes up, sees him, and they go off and have a conversation like, you talk about what you need to, I'm finished. We're good. The
Got my
next day
cue.
Yeah, the next day I get a call from the venue, and I'm like, I kept telling them. I ended it at 10:30. They're like, okay, no problem. Just understand from now on it's 10 o'clock. We're good.
Okay.
So you do have those situations. Unfortunately, we do have to, depending on,
So that's an
and
important point. That's something that couples when they're looking at things, looking at their cabins, making their plans.
mhm.
That's kind of an interesting detail that they really need to check into and see if there are any restrictions or quiet hours or any kind of time limits that might affect what they're wanting to put together. So
Yeah, I mean, for when technology, of course, a lot of people have Bluetooth speakers and whatever, and it's not that vacationers don't make the most of their time here by being disruptive in certain areas. That is what that is.
yeah,
But when it comes to what we do, if we're told to turn it down or we have to turn it off, then we need to comply. If it's a
well, I
cabin
mean,
that
we're the
uses,
locals, we're the professionals in the area. We're the
yeah,
ones that's going to remain here and got to continue on in life, and
right,
rules are rules. They're there for a reason, and then they do need to be respected. So yeah.
yeah. So you do have that, and of course, because a lot of places come here and, they're used to having parties till 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. So,
Yeah.
and I always tell people, especially when I get groups that come from certain areas, it's like, when you're here, it is different because people are coming into a different atmosphere. You are actually in a higher elevation. Whether you believe it or not, just even being in Pigeon Forge in that, you're in a higher elevation. So, it's a lot of, things I tell people that, here are things to be mindful of with the venue that you've chosen, and that's just things to understand.
Yeah.
Especially if a lot of people come in the night before, travel the day of, you get tired. And therefore, a lot of times, if the couple's like, oh, well, we want to go to this time, I'm like, you can do that, and I'll gladly charge you for it. I'm just letting you understand that once the reception starts, we start getting into those later hours, you're going to come to me and thinking it's midnight, and it's only like 9:45.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's the mountains do something different, when it comes to that effect of it.
So what's the wildest or the most unexpected request that you've ever had over the years doing weddings here?
Um, I don't know if it's the wildest, just the difference between couples who do your own as compared to working with actual professionals. Um, because not every place has it required that you have to hire bartenders or other people to plan the wedding. So it's a matter of,
Right.
you see people who think they can but cannot handle the liquor. And then, of course, when you see that play out in front of you, you understand why the movie Gremlins was made in the 80s, because that's what they become. And if I were to ever take videos of those weddings and post them, I'm like, yeah, this is what I dealt with Saturday. Fantastic. Um, so I think it's more just that instead of just the wildest thing I would see is just more of, people have different options of what it is they're wanting to do because of their budget. They tend to spend more money on certain things rather than everything. And so they cut corners. And sometimes one of those corners they cut is hiring a professional to tend bar.
Yeah.
And when you get those weddings that don't have that, you definitely understand why they should have.
So talking about outdoor weddings,
Yes.
what kind of challenges, other than in weather, in which, I want you to explain it, as well, how you plan for weather, or sudden changes. Of course, this area is kind of notorious for that. It's
Sure.
oftentimes people say around here, hey, hang around an hour. It's going to be completely different.
Yeah, or
But
20
what,
minutes.
what what kind of challenges come with the outdoor, the mountaintop receptions?
I mean, and let's take a for instance of this week. If anyone had had a wedding Saturday, um, chances are they would have had a lot of calls from their vendors going, sorry, we can't make it up these roads,
Right.
which it probably happened more than a few times this last weekend. And that's something you can't plan for because, again, no matter if you have four-wheel drive or something, some of these roads you just can't navigate. And it's not like a lot of these roads have a guardrail or a bumper system in place where the vehicle just goes back down the road and you're safe. It doesn't happen that way. And
Right.
so you have to really understand that if you know you're having it in this time of the year that we're going to have winter weather, and if the case, do we have a backup? You know, do we have another place to where the vendors are able to navigate to get there? And that's the same for summer weddings. You know, we live in an area to where you can have 4 beautiful days in a row, but on that particular wedding day, it's going to rain, and it's going to rain all day. Or if it rains half the day and then it stops, but then the humidity spikes it up to like 97 degrees.
Right. Yeah. Been there,
How do
done
you
that.
navigate the fact you still want to have everything outdoors? What's that going to look like? How, you know, are you going to have enough fans? Are you going to have, you know, it's just so, a lot of things are to be considered. One of the things that I've put in my contracts are that, you know, um, coverage has to be provided because, you know,
You got
if
to
I'm getting
protect
a
your
wedding,
equipment.
outdoor
Yeah.
wedding in July, there's no way that I'm just standing outside under a tree for 7 hours. You have to have a better adequate protection for me than that. And if I have to supply it, then you're getting charged for it.
So
And
some
not
things
only
to
that,
think about when they're putting their
it
place
really
together, their
is.
location. You know, it's. I mean, is there anything as far as like power that is specific or that's
I
required?
require an
Anything like
adequate
that?
power source. I mean, I've got a mobile power station that I can bring for certain areas, mainly for ceremony. I haven't, luckily when I talk to couples, I'm always like, listen, for reception, you want me to have an adequate power source. You don't want me running off a mobile power station simply because even there's one that says it can last 7 hours. We don't want to test it until its limits.
We
I
don't want
want
to
to
get
use
six
it.
and a half and
I want to use it as mainly a backup if I have to, but I'd rather have a regular source if possible. So those are
yeah.
definitely things that, as the wedding industry has grown in this area, or more venues or more people say, "Oh yeah, you can rent my field." Those are things that have to be considered as to say, yes, we are mobile DJ service, and we prove that quite a bit. But we also have to have certain things in place so we're able to do what we do successfully, even with challenges.
Yeah. So in thinking, kind of logistics, these kind of things, how important do you think the DJ's role is in keeping the wedding, the timeline, everything on track?
Oh, greatly important. I think that, between that and having an actual coordinator who knows what they're doing, who has an idea of how the day should play out, it's very important because
Which I know
there's
some
typically,
couples that they do have a coordinator, some don't. Some
right.
I would imagine they probably put a lot of that responsibility on your back if
Oh
they
yeah.
don't have a coordinator or planner.
Oh yeah, it's very important. I've often heard that the DJ itself can make or break the party. So, with that
Wow.
being said, it's very important to do your homework on what does the DJ offer, why is it that they offer that, and what can they do to help you or work with you to create that vibe. Um, and I'll say this, and I've been seeing it a lot lately. A lot of people be like, "Well, we're on a budget." I understand budgets. I'm not taking anything away from that. But if you're looking for a DJ to accomplish all these specific things, then you can't just go, "Oh well, can you do it for this?" And if their answer is no, then like, well, we're just going to find someone else. That's great. But then
Yeah.
you have to look at, will the results be the same? A lot of people,
Well,
or a lot of DJs, especially in this area, who charge, I call a fair amount. Number one, because this is what they do for a living. But number two, it's because this is what they know that they bring to the table, that they're going to do everything possible to make
yeah.
sure that you have an awesome wedding day.
So, thinking about the timeline and everything, this part of the package, what kind of mistakes do you see couples making along this area?
Um, Mistakes I see them make is sometimes having a family friend step up and either coordinate or officiate, um, or someone come up and say, well, I've read online how to do this, and so uh, if I were to cut out certain services, then maybe and I'm not saying this for anyone to be mean at me, but you know, maybe you don't have to spend 12 to 15,000 on flowers. You know, maybe you can do a different way for invitations or something of that nature. To me, I think your valuable services that you need to spend the money on would be your coordination, your venue, your entertainment, your catering.
So they're putting a
And
lot of their money in the wrong parts of the
at
package.
times I think that they are.
Yeah.
I really do. You know, and I say that not as someone who says because I want that dollar instead. It's because I see the stories. I see the brides who will post on the pages and go, "Oh my God,
Well,
had
yeah,
I
I mean, who's
known."
going to remember the flowers? But they're going to remember the party.
Yes, yeah,
Because
and I
if you
think
bomb the dances, that's going to be remembered, and ain't
yes,
nobody going to remember the flowers. So that makes sense.
yeah. So I think it's just more of, you know, don't be afraid to take more time in, you know, if you find a venue and that venue has a preferred vendor list, fantastic. As we are on
Because there's
quite a
a
few of
reason
those
they have
lists.
that list.
Right.
Yeah.
But don't just do one vendor of each. Call a couple of vendors of each. You know, call a couple planners. If you find one you like, and you know she knows the vendors that are on the list, fantastic. If she also gives you other recommendations, that's great too. But you want to make sure that you're not led in any one direction. Be satisfied with every specific pick that you have, and make sure they've answered your questions. Because if you're still on the fence about something, then go on to the next one, you
Yeah.
know, because these are very important choices for you to make. And there's a lot of times I'll tell people, say, listen, check out two or three different guys. I'll even give you the recommendations. And if there's another company that answers the questions better than I have, then by all means, make the choice to go that direction.
Now,
You
you
know,
were
'cause-
saying you kind of throw a lot of suggestions out, for couples when they're working with you. How
sure,
does that
sure.
play out in the music? How do you help couples choose music that reflects who they are?
A lot of it goes, we have a planning app that we use. And so that planning app has categories in there that they can check the boxes on. So I know, like,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
maybe they want music from this era or music from this era. And from there, I get more specific and say, okay, so you chose this era. So are you looking for these particular artists or these particular artists? And once I start naming it, like, oh yeah, yeah, more of these, then that really tells me, like, okay, they like these artists, they like these songs, they're putting in this music, so it tells me I can start off with this and get into here, and they want me to stay within this area. And that the app allows us to customize to where I can truly go, okay, so they like, and I'll just use a name, they like Usher, or they like this. And so right away I'm like, okay, so then I go here. And that allows me to truly customize and go, so as we get into the evening, this is where they want me to stay. Because by
Gotcha.
that time, maybe some of the older folks have left, maybe they're not, maybe the older folks are just socializing, continuing. Because a lot of times these weddings on the weekends are family reunions. You know, people have come to the area the first time, they haven't met each other or they haven't seen each other in a long time. So it's an opportunity for them just to connect or reconnect.
Yeah, that is one thing great about this area. It is kind of centralized to the majority of the population of the United States that, within a day's
Mm-hmm.
drive. And
Yeah,
officiating, I've seen a lot of that too, that, people are coming in from all directions. And like you said, most of them, that the families haven't even met each other. So some of these
exactly.
families, the couple is from one end of the country to the other end, and they're coming together and getting married, and because they met in college or something someplace. And so now, these families are, coming together that have never met each other. And I'm, it does, it creates some interesting scenarios.
It does.
Not in a bad way, but just in an interesting way. Do you find it difficult to read some of the crowds sometimes when you're DJing? How does that affect your performance or results?
Once in a while I'll get that, you know, like something like maybe the bride has chosen the music that her or maybe the bridesmaids or something like, but then some of the other folks aren't too crazy about it. So if I know ahead of time, I'll usually say, you know, I always ask for the ability just to have flexibility to be able to read the crowd. And you know, you do have those moments where you're like, oh my God, you know, I'm going to play from her list and get a bunch of these songs out. And then you find it's her and her bridesmaids and everyone else is left. And then once I do that, I'm like, okay, what got them out there? I need to kind of circle around, at least play another song or so to get that back, and then go back into, you know. And most of the time when I do that, the brides are like, yeah, you know, we appreciated that very much. Very rarely do I get that, you know, oh, just stick with this and we don't care. You know, we want to dance and so do our friends. So
So I take it you've got a whole outline kind of how your night's going to go as far as
pretty much.
this is going to happen at this time. This will happen at this point. You know, I mean, how do you coordinate the key moments like the first dances or the send-offs, you know, those kind of things?
A lot of times, you know, even if I don't work with a planner, then I'll kind of look at, you know, like how we have the evening going. So, you know, if we have a 4 o'clock ceremony, then I know that, you know, the ceremony could last anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes ish, depending on what kind of script they want or depending on who's officiating.
Right.
From that point on, you know that once cocktails start, that's usually 45 minutes to an hour. So then within that time frame, unless they choose to have an hour and a half, then we choose, you know, maybe like 5:30, 5:45, you're doing introductions. From that point, you can have it either where you go into a first dance, and then if there's a welcome and a blessing, that takes place, and then from that point, you release, you know, everyone for dinner. Once that happens, I usually look at it is once I know everyone's gone through the line, then I give it another 15 or 20 minutes ish to let them all kind of eat. From that point, it's like, okay, and maybe we're looking at that point, maybe it's like 6:30, 6:45. So let's make the announcement, hey, you know, in about 5 or so minutes, we're going to be doing the toast, followed by the cake, and then the dances.
Well, I'm sure a
So
lot of it's got to do with how long they scheduled you for too, as to how
exactly.
you kind
My
of spread it
idea
out, I
is like
suppose. So,
I always try and give each couple a good 3 hours of solid dance music if I can do that. Sometimes things run long, sometimes they want more socializing, and that's fine. I'm flexible. I don't have to have anything done at a certain time. My attitude is that as long as I know I'm getting the things they want done in a timely
right.
manner, then we're good.
That makes
So,
sense.
you know, um, I try and, you know, if we know that, you know, we start dancing and they wanted to wait on a couple things, but now we see some of the older guests leaving, it's like, okay, let's get those things done now. Therefore, they can witness them, and then we can go back to what we were doing. Um, a lot of times with your send off, a lot of that depends on sometimes you have it to where photography's there the whole night, or sometimes they're not. So then we have to do what we call these fake send offs. So that way they can grab the footage that they
They can get
have.
the photo.
They can
Gotcha.
get the photos, yes. So um, if I had my rather, I would never do a fake send off ever again, because a lot of times that affects the energy of what we're doing, and you're not always able to get that back. But then there are those moments where
Yeah.
you're able to get it back, and the crowd continues for the rest of the time. So it just depends. I would
So there
always
can be, yeah,
rather.
working with the other vendors and everything can, yeah, there can be some challenges here to think
Oh yeah,
about. And
absolutely,
when, you
absolutely.
know, somebody's putting this all together, there are those are things that they do need to think about. You know, am
Yeah,
I going to have my photographer here for the send off? You know, those kind of
right.
things. That's interesting. That's an interesting point.
What depending on the time of the year, if they want to do sunset photos, what time is the sunset? Do we have to have it to where as soon as I get the dancing started, oh, the couples need to go get their sunset photos now, so we can get that finished, and then they come back. So there's a lot of varying factors when it comes to what we face. And my thing about it is this: I always tell planners and couples, I'm there till 10 o'clock. So however it plays out is however it plays out for me. I'm not saying we have to do something at this time, only because I'm not wanting to really have to push the couple and go, we have to get it done now. Unless it's a first dance, or unless it's something we know that specific people in their group want to see that happen, but they're ready to leave.
Well, yeah, I mean, grandma and grandpa can only stay so long.
Yeah, so
You know,
those are
yeah.
moments, or if we want something done, but the lighting has to be just right in order to get that done, And if I know that information ahead of time, then I'll program in a way to where I know they want to hear this stuff. I'm going to wait, program this first, and then when we do that, then I'll segue into all this other. So,
Gotcha.
whether people believe it or not, there is a science to how we program the night. And if we do it successfully, then we have a constant dance floor throughout.
So with that thought in mind, what do you think is the biggest thing that the couple should look for when hiring a DJ for a mountain wedding?
I think they need to look at their reviews. They need to look at their social media presence, whether it be Facebook or Instagram. They need to look at how many vendors know who they are and how easy they are to work with, how many planners know who they are, the venue they're choosing. Are they, if you have a couple DJs who are on 2 or 3 different preferred vendor lists, then you know that DJ is doing his job by being active in the area, and those venues feel comfortable in having him on their list. So
Yeah, and if he's on the
that
list,
speaks,
that obviously says something. You're right.
Yeah, so that speaks volumes. And it's also, too, don't be afraid to have a phone conversation. A lot of couples sit and go, no, we'll just do email. Don't just do email. I understand if you're not
for the
comfortable
DJ.
talking on the
That
phone.
would have to be a challenge.
Yeah, but at least have one phone conversation with them and have a list of questions. Don't think you're going to ask too many questions, and don't think you want to take up too much of their time. That is exactly what they're there for, and you want to make sure they've answered all your questions successfully.
Yeah, because the DJ is kind of really the heart of the vibe of the whole night, and in so many ways, so getting that vibe and connection to fit is got to be important.
Yeah, and I mean, if they want to do a Zoom call, then fine, let's do a Zoom call. I think it's important to have at least some sort of connection. So I always recommend, let's do a phone call. And when the brides are like, no, we're better just doing everything email. Okay, fine. And that's fine. I'd rather have a phone call because that way you can ask more questions about them and their background, and maybe try and come up with, that to see if there is a connection that you're making.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
Me,
makes sense.
Yeah. So I think to me that's important, specifically for being in a destination area, that if you can, have a Zoom call, have a phone call. And from that point, if you're still not satisfied with that particular DJ, then you go on to the next one.
Makes sense. Well, listen, gosh, we've been at this for a little bit here already.
Wedding professionals are full of hot air, so I'd expect it.
Well, some of these things are really important. They really do make a difference.
Yes.
So, but as we're wrapping up here, I've just put up on the screen how you can connect with Ron. I've got his website.
I see that. Thank you very much.
SmokyMountainSounds.com. His phone number is up there. Now, that's a phone number that you can call or text.
Yes.
So you can touch base with him either way with that phone number, whatever's most convenient.
Awesome.
So as we're wrapping up here, Ron, what would probably be the biggest piece of advice that you could give couples for coming here to do a wedding?
First of all, we'd love to have you. We have such a beautiful area to host weddings at, so many beautiful backdrops and scenery, so we'd love to have you here. We'd love to have your family and friends come and experience the Smokies. Just make sure you get with someone, do your homework, whether it be a planner or the first professional you talk to. Maybe make sure it's someone who is versed in the area and can help you with all the different factors. Even if they don't know someone, maybe they can guide you in a certain direction. But don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to, people going by emotion. Make a connection with every vendor that you choose. And if there's one that you're not sure about, then listen to your gut and go on to the next one of that to make sure.
Right. Yeah. Good advice. Good advice. Well, Ron, can't thank you enough for spending some time with me today.
Absolutely, Jody. It's been my pleasure. Been a pleasure.
I think you've provided a lot of good insight here, not just from the DJ's perspective, but, even some things to think about overall, just even beginning to plan a wedding here in the mountains.
Sure. And let me close with this.
Go ahead.
That even if someone is not sure about my services, feel free to reach out to me and call me, and I'll be glad to just help you in general in the area look for certain things or guide you in certain areas.
Yeah, so, some of us here, we know the ones you can rely on and the ones that you can't. So,
Yeah,
that, like you said, it goes back to asking questions, check
sure,
it all out. That's
sure. Yeah,
because I know
thank you
you
for the
feel the same way
opportunity,
I
Jody.
do. I want to make sure all my couples leave here with an amazing memory,
Exactly,
so.
exactly. Well, I appreciate the opportunity very much.
Well, Ron, thank you. Appreciate you. I always enjoy
Absolutely.
working with you. Look forward to working with you in the future as always.
Same here.
And if there's any venues or vendors that would like to get on a podcast, the little QR code up here in the corner of the screen, if you just scan that with your phone, it'll take you right to an application that you can apply to be on the Weddings in the Mountains broadcast program. So other than that, I just encourage everybody to make sure that you like and subscribe to whatever channel that you're watching this on. And we'll be back here real soon with another vendor or venue for you to be able to meet and get to know. So with that all being said, again, thank you, Ron, for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And we are going to head on out and call it a day. So again, we thank you for being here with us at Weddings in the Mountains.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We'll be back next week with more tips and stories for your perfect mountain wedding, and always with a touch of laughter and love. Until next time, may your hearts be as full as the Smoky Mountain skyline as you prepare your wedding in the mountains.